what dimension do we want to be at this afternoon? 60. Do you feel 60?
Yes.
Or 7 or 8?
We can go up.
Hey, let's go around 80.
All right.
So how does one or humanity erase the unhealthy ingrained messages pre-programmed by their parents or those who have acted in that role of parents?
Well, when it comes to the idea of making these kinds of changes, the kinds of changes that you're speaking of to sort of reprogram the brain to, shall we say, access less of the negative memories or potentials and access more positive potentials.
Correct.
Does this make sense?
Yes.
Well, it's part of the idea is to become more consciously aware that you are choosing from any moment of now, you're choosing to reflect on any seemingly idea of the past. Does this make sense?
Yes.
All right. So the idea is to remind yourself to simply remember that that is a choice from any moment of now, what you call now and now and now and now. It's a constant choice. It's a constant choice to reflect on the idea of the past in any certain manner from any certain now. Does that make sense? Mechanically speaking?
Yes.
All right. See, the idea is from this now, or a now tomorrow, or a now yesterday, or a now in the future, or the past, or more now, you can choose to view things more consciously and with more awareness that you're choosing a frame of reality, a frame of potential. And that frame can include some audio, right? Just like a snapshot, a frame in your movies, a frame in your pictures contains light, visual. It can also contain audio, right? Does this make sense? I.e., when you see the snapshot of a certain memory, certain things come back. It's many times auditory, sometimes it's the other four senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. Did we cover them all? Anyway, you're accessing a frame of reality which will include central nervous stimulation. Does this make sense?
Yes.
The remembrance of a central nervous system stimulation. And the ones that, shall we say, are more powerful, whether they be more light or more dark, are the ones that resonate throughout eternity in a louder manner. Does that make some sense in your language?
Uh, yes. So I think I'm hearing a touch of the parasympathetic nervous system is involved in these
Yes.
messages.
Yes, very good.
And an audio such as hypnosis could fast forward someone past the unhealthy messages.
Yes, this is one approach, certainly, yes.
And what would another approach to fast forward?
Well, the idea is when we hear the idea of hypnosis, it suggests going to someone to help you heal. And while this is certainly a viable option and certainly a valid option, one of the, shall we say, keys to mastery is healing thyself. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So again, that's not to invalidate any other process or going to an expert or professional. That is perfectly valid. However, the idea is, as you wake up more and more and realize more and more that you are consciously choosing those frames of reality, which include, as you mentioned, the parasympathetic system, the central nervous system, these kinds of experiences, It's to help yourself rewire. We have a, shall we, let us share an example or an exercise.
Okay.
All right, one moment. We'd like you to pick a memory. It can be any memory, the idea of the past.
Okay.
And think about all that it includes: the sights, the sounds, the colors, the entire experience. The emotion is the most important thing. The feeling of being in that moment. As you regenerate that emotion, you ask yourself, do I want more of this vibration or less of this vibration? I.e., for example, let's say we pick a memory from the idea of the past in, let's say, childhood that was a less than positive experience, a somewhat, shall we say, negative experience. The idea is to simply ask yourself, as you pull that frame of potential up through all the frames of potentiality, ask yourself, do I wish to see and experience and hear and know and taste and touch and smell and intuitively remember these kinds of vibrations? Maybe not. So I'll allow that to be what it is or what it was in the idea of the past. Or I can ask myself, what did I learn from it? How did I grow from this? How would I approach this differently? In a similar kind of situation, what emotion might I call upon to assist me? Does this make some sense in your language?
Yes.
All right. So the idea again, let's say now, for instance, we reflect on a memory of childhood that is very loving and warm and pleasant and much more positive. And simply ask yourself, as you call that up again, thinking about the time, the place, the situation, the other role players, the other versions of you in that moment, the sight, the sound, the smell, the taste, the touch, that experience, which, if it's a positive, loving, pleasant, generally pleasant experience, simply ask yourself or tell yourself or remind yourself, I wish to access and utilize these parallel realities, these potentials, these emotions. Generally, hopefully, it's around the idea of feeling loved, comfortable, secure, joyful, compassion. These kinds of emotions are the most healthy and beneficial ideas to center around. Does this make sense?
Yes.
All right. Does this help in some way?
It does. With the parasympathetic nervous system, does the human mind unconsciously or something remembers the unhealthy memories or abuse or a car accident or
Are you asking more about what is their role?
so
Go ahead.
how do you get rid of the unhealthy memories
Well,
that you don't know are there?
okay. Oh, that you don't know are there. Well, we would say, generally speaking, if you don't know that they're there, maybe you don't really do need to know about them, or you would. Does this make sense in some way?
I guess I'm asking, does our body have memories?
Yes, absolutely. You have cellular memory. Memory is really not so much in the mind as it is in the heart and all of your cells, but it's much more in the heart, which is the center of emotion. Emotion. When your heart flutters, your heart jumps, you know that either adrenaline is being released or something is going on with your system. This is how and why these moments of potentiality stand out to you more. Your heart literally raced, right? As you say sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make some sense?
Yes. So how do you erase those cell memories that are not
You
present?
you include them. You allow them. What keeps them being powerful or unpleasant is your fear of them. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So the idea is the fear that if I remember this or I think about this, it's going to regenerate this negative emotion. So the idea to diffuse that or to better reduce it is to ask yourself, again, perhaps as we mentioned, what did I learn from this? What positive attribute can I take from this? You mentioned the idea of a car accident, whether it's a traumatic accident or some kind of negative experience. Ask yourself, why did I create this? I created it for a reason, or it wouldn't have happened. Or, as you were kind enough to mention, it wouldn't be in the idea of my memory. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So the more you ask yourself, why did I create this? And get at the purpose of why you created it, get at the emotion. And again, because these events are generally, they produce rather strong emotions, whether it be more of the light or the dark, they permeate longer within cellular memory. This is why they sort of last. But again, to replace them is to simply ask yourself, what did I learn from this? Why did I create this? Why did I choose this experience? And the more you grasp that and integrate that, the less power it has, and it's no longer so scary. Does this make sense?
Correct.
All right. Does this help in some way?
Yes. So let's take the emotion of unworthiness.
All right. Well, all right, very good. For example, the idea of unworthy. I feel unworthy. One must simply ask yourself, what must be true for me to actually believe this? If one says I am unworthy of this or I'm not worthy of that, stop and ask yourself, what must I believe about myself to make that a true statement? I am not worthy. This is nonsensical. When you hear another person say it, it sounds nonsensical because it is nonsensical. You're all worthy. You're all worthy of all things. So again, it does speak to the idea of much of the, shall we say, indoctrination, the teachings and language. It's about language on your planet. Much of the language that is used around certain ideas and concepts have over time restricted imagination to a great degree. We may have wandered off your question. We apologize. What was your question?
It's relevant. That was good. The question was about unworthiness.
Oh, all right. Well, the idea is to ask yourself, what must I believe if I say I am unworthy of this? What must you believe about yourself for that to actually be a true statement? And when you can understand that it can't be a true statement, it's just an idea, it's just a potential. And ask yourself, why am I buying into this potential? What's the benefit of it? Perhaps there's a reason someone wants to feel unworthy. Because again, please understand, we are not here to take anything away from anyone. You are free to think and believe and choose and emote however you wish. But the idea is to remind yourself or ask yourself, if I think I'm not good enough for this or not good enough for that, ask yourself, is that a real thing or is that simply a thought? It's not real. Most thoughts are not, while they do create reality, please understand it's just an energetic possibility. And many times on your planet, you've probably heard the idea of you don't have to entertain every thought you've had, right? Many of your thoughts are coming and going constantly at a speed of light, faster than the speed of light. But it's a matter of what do you choose to engage with? What do you choose to, we spoke of the pineal gland the other day, what do you choose to include through your mind, your pineal gland, and most importantly, through the heart? Through the heart. What do you wish to experience in the idea of emotion? Does this help in some way?
Yes. And so, what would our hearts say to replace the thought that's creating the unworthiness?
Remind yourself, simply remind yourself that you are worthy. You are all worthy. Every one of you are worthy of all things. This is a simple replacement, and it is true, and it is accurate. We understand it can be challenging at sometimes to put it into practice at all times, and again, we refer to the simply the density of your earth at this time. It's very thick and heavy at times, and integrating a lot of thoughts which may or may not serve you, goes on a great deal. There are many things people carry around, be it a thought or a suitcase, that don't really serve them, but you carry them anyway for a purpose. Again, you do not have to let anything go if you do not wish to. Once you realize why you held on to it, you will no longer need to hold on to it. Does this make some sense?
A great deal of sense. Thank